Hello, and welcome to Ashes Rugby League Podcast, episode 20. My name is Roger Davis or something. I'm not admitting to being myself today. No, I'll be Lee Addison. Go on.
That's the enthusiasm of an Englishman after an Ashes defeat, isn't it? Come
Well,
on,
not
let's
only
get a bit
that,
of
mate, as
energy.
well. Not only that, Manchester United won. My team, Manchester City, lost. I've woken up to that news this morning, so I won't be watching that back. And Arsenal won, so they're 6 points clear. It's been an awful weekend. Who are you, anyway?
I'm John Davidson. Lovely to be here, Australian journalist.
Australian journalist. I bet you were crowing at the weekend, weren't you?
No, it wasn't, mate. Look, how many podcasts we've done, I don't know. I just had to comment on someone then. They didn't like the final line of my Guardian piece when it was sticking up the palms, but they missed the point that I was making that the defeat, it needs to be a wake-up call for things to change in English Rugby League to improve the game and improve the intensity of Super League to match the Australians. The best story, my allegiance is to the best story, and the best story would have been an England win. And the best thing for the game would be an England Ashes series win. But unfortunately, that looks very unlikely after what we saw on Saturday.
I thought your piece was brilliant, mate. And probably the best thing I read in the fallout from the game. And I'm not just saying that because you're a mate.
Can I just say it was the only thing you probably read about Jermaine Greer and Barry Humphries when it came to rugby league?
I reckon you wrote that 6 weeks before that bit. I do think you're being a little bit dramatic. I've done some analysis, and I do think England did so many good things. They just didn't do them for a sustained period or long enough and didn't execute. And I think there's reasons for that. And I also think tactically there's some things they need to change. And I think it's retrievable. The question is, can the people employed to retrieve it, can they retrieve it in 7 days? And that's what we'll peel apart in this podcast, John.
Yeah, I mean, do they have a plan B? Because I think plan A didn't work. But you are right about the execution. They had chances, didn't they? They did create. They had line breaks. They just couldn't execute. But there goes to the question: is why couldn't they execute, Lee? Because there were things in their favour, and there are good players in that England team. So the question is, why did they not perform? They had to play well to beat Australia, and I don't think while they were competing at least for 20 odd minutes. But I think they're really worrying for me watching back some of the game today. The second half, like they came out in the second half, there was 8-0. The game was there. Yeah. And they absolutely fell to bits. And that Angus Chrichton try, which sort of killed it, basically, was so soft.
Hold your thought, because I think this is going to be a deep dive. And I just want to set people up for the week. So I released the Rugby League Coach podcast that I do every Monday. And I said on there, if this podcast is a little bit shorter, it's because we're going to drop a lot of content this week. So myself and yourself, this will probably be the first of 2 podcasts that we do this week, because we'll probably do a preview one. Mm-hmm. So I've got my little script here. It's gone from every fortnight now, each few days. Well, twice a week, join myself and John for analysis, news, and interviews with guests. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And lots more during the 2025 series between England and Australia. I am still an Englishman, even though I want to emphasize the fact I live in Australia, and I've coached in Australia for nearly 20 years right now, and I think that gives me a bit of an insight. I've coached at NRL clubs and whatnot. John, you're a gloating Australian who writes about Jermaine Greer and Clive James.
Not gloating at all, Lee. Not gloating at all. I've been living in the UK for 13 years. I've got an English partner and 2 born and raised English children. So, yeah.
What are their accents like?
Well, thanks to YouTube, there's probably an English American term, but they don't sound proper Yorkshire, so I'm not too upset about that. Yeah.
I did say that we have interviews with guests, so John, you've done some great work this weekend, mate. You've worked really hard, haven't you? And you were in the mix zone. We've got some interviews. Let's go with the Australian ones first. We've got Nathan Cleary first, followed by Angus Chrichton, followed by Mark Nawaqanitawase talking to our man Johnny Davidson.
Mate, how's the face first up?
Yeah, face is all good. Might be a bit blowing up tomorrow, but we're good to go for next week, so it's all good.
When did that happen?
I don't know. I think it happened in the first half, and then it's sort of just in the running place. I didn't think about it too much and just get on with it.
What did you make of the game in England?
Yeah, it was pretty scrappy. Like it's very physical. That's what we were expecting. They obviously come out real hard, and it was sort of to and fro for a long time there. We're probably just a bit antsy and going after it a bit too much, coming with a few errors and couldn't really build much momentum. But I thought when we needed to, we put it on shapes well, and I thought we saved a lot of tries too, scrambled hard, and they had a few inroads to let them that first half, and we were able to turn up and stop the try, so that was important.
Did you expect more from them in attack in the second half when the game opened up a bit?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough though. Like when there's fatigue in the game, and that's sort of what we wanted, to build a bit of fatigue. And they've got some great players in their team, and I thought they were, coming after it at different stages. But that's what I mean. I thought we repelled it quite well and defended well.
Your first Ashes game, what was that like? I'm sure your dad would have been telling you about all the ones in the past.
Yeah,
before your time.
It was mad. Just before we come over here, all the old Ashes games are on TV, so I got to watch a fair few of the highlights and games, and just to be a part of that, something historic, it's pretty special. And even to play at a stadium like this, it's pretty mental. So I love it, and being able to represent my country again, it's a great honour.
Nathan, what was they feel like they need to improve again? There's a lot of improvement to be based on.
Absolutely. I think obviously a few combination breakdowns, a few passes not sticking. So I'm looking forward to getting into training again, sort of reset and recovering after this, and going again for next week. And I think there's a lot of improvement in us, and that's exciting. But I think the foundation of our defence is the most important thing. We need to keep working hard at that.
How do you find the rucks special?
Yeah, it was alright. It's definitely slower than back home, but again, that was to be expected. Probably, everyone gets away with a little bit more, so it wasn't too bad.
Playing Wigan before, did that help? Because you've been over here and you've played that style.
Yeah, a little bit. It's definitely a different style, as I said, like slower rucks and all that. And we got that in the Wigan game when we come over here, so got a little feel for it. But obviously, it's test footy now, so it's a whole different ball game. And it obviously helps having Willie Peters as well. He knows a lot of the guys in the English team, knows the refs as well. So having him was a great help.
Do you think of this performance by Walsh? Obviously, 2 weeks ago he was the star of the grand final. 2 weeks on, he's the international star.
Yeah, outstanding. What a freak of a play, honestly. It's an absolute pleasure to play alongside him, and we've seen what he can do on the Origin stage, and then obviously in grand finals, big games, and he did it again here tonight on the Test stage. So, again, just being able to play alongside him and someone with that kind of talent it's pretty incredible. And, I love that.
Is there anybody you can compare him to that you've played alongside?
Not that I've played alongside, I don't think. He just has pure X factor, and when it feels like nothing's happening, he just can have his imprint on the game, and not many people can do what he does throughout history, I reckon. So, it's pretty special.
You do a lot of talking over there, mate?
Sorry?
You hear from him a lot? Does he talk a lot?
Yeah, that's probably one thing he's, I guess, working on. He was sort of talking to me a fair bit and seeing a lot of things, and he's pretty excited to always be in the game, which is his strength, but sometimes you've just got to calm him down a little bit. And that is his strength, so you've got to sort of release him and let him do his thing. And again, it's just playing with him's crazy.
He seemed to love it out there, like he was just thriving.
Yeah, well, he's definitely not shy of the big stage. We know that. As I said, Origins, grand finals, now on the Test level, it's no surprise he performed the way he did. Just seeing him at training and sort of his willingness to play well and go after it is pretty impressive, and it's no surprise.
Nathan, what was the message at half time? You came out England were putting you under the pressure in the first half, and then you blew them away in the second half. Just what did you guys say as players in that dressing room?
A lot was around the errors and sort of releasing pressure. I think we had too much of that. We probably had a bit too much of it in the second half too, but I thought we'd come out with the right mentality, and as I said, our foundation is our defence, and sort of going after and building the game off that. And I thought we did that pretty well for us.
Can you feel those kind of momentum shifts? The try in the first minute of the second half. Did that feel like kind of a game-breaking moment?
Yeah, a little bit. You can feel the momentum. It's obviously such a big thing in rugby league at the moment, and there was even a moment where I think they nearly scored, and then they went after us hard in defence, and you can sort of feel that. You just need to push through that period and come out on top.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Nathan. How's that? 2 tries at Wembley. Dream come true?
Yeah, I think we should have had a few more there if I didn't drop my lollies, but no, it was good fun.
And what did you think? Like the intensity early on, it seemed pretty big, but just got over top.
They were firing. We knew that they were going to come hard early, but we had to weather it, and we did a good job there.
I mean, Reece Walsh, what can you say about him? You played with some pretty good players, but...
Oh, mate, you blink and you miss him, I think. He's that fast and that dangerous. He's still so young as well, so it was wonderful for him to get his opportunity today, and he did a great job.
It seemed like you guys didn't have there was no nerves, like obviously, first game for a long time, but just,
Well, I think, to be honest, we were pretty disappointed ourselves in that first half. I think a lot of errors, a lot of drop ball, and we let him into the game there, so we look into... try and catch those balls and finish some passes and build a bit more pressure. I think it was disappointing in that sense.
Is it hard when you play for Kangaroos because everyone expects you to win every game?
I think we love that pressure, we love that expectation, and we hold ourselves to a high standard, and it's always an honour to wear the green and gold.
Did you get out of this game what you expected?
Yeah, I think we did. I think good first blow as a team. It was a solid hit out, and we know they're going to be coming for our heads the next time, and we'll be ready for it.
Were you surprised by England's performance this afternoon?
No, not at all. I think we know that they were going to try and take our heads off and be that really aggressive team, but we know they are, and I think they'll be ramping up again this second game.
It's missed a generation, but what do you make of the Ashes series?
I love it. I think it's a great concept. I think it's great for rugby league, and especially over here where it's probably a bit more union dominated. I think a lot of union guys will be tuning in today to see the great sport that is rugby league, and I think that we would have won a few over tonight. I know there was a few Springboks that were in the crowd there tonight. Also, I met Henry Pollock in that when they were over for the Lions too. I know that they came to the game, so I think we might be turning a few union players, a few union fans. Maybe get some of them boys in the green and gold.
And for you being in London, obviously, for a full week, how's that been?
It's been fun. I think, I love the UK, I love England. My wife's from Manchester, so...
You eligible to play for England?
Nah, my kid might, but no, not me. I'm strictly green and gold, so... it's good to have her mum and dad in the crowd and have the grandparents to come to the game at Liverpool and Leeds, so it's fun.
We get over to Manchester and get some...
Yeah, for sure. We'll go see her family and spend some time with them. I greedily steal her away for half the year, so it's nice to give back to them. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Angus. Debut, what was that? What did you find out?
Yeah, special. Good team. Good team to come up against. I think it's very physical, and we felt that at the start. But like I said, pretty special to run around with the boys that are in my team. Very talented and very grateful to get the win.
And you've done a lot with the Wallabies, and how does that sort of compare? Ashes, 60,000.
Oh no, it's up there. It's up there. I guess it's any test levels are very similar. The crowd's loud, the game's fast, and that's what I felt out there. So it's good.
What did you make of England?
Yeah, like I said, very physical. They came out and made sure they put some hits on us at the start. But I'm sure the next 2 games are going to be just as tough, and hopefully we can get the win like we did today.
Do you think you guys got another gear to go in the next 2 tests?
Yeah, definitely. I think we left a lot of points out there, but that's just obviously first game running around with each other. So the chemistry will build, and next game we've got more to give. So it's exciting.
And for yourself, I mean, you were playing a different sport not that long ago, and you've had a great year at the Roosters. How, keeps getting better.
Yeah, mate, I'm living the dream, so I can't complain, and just got to keep enjoying it.
You also captain early on. How did that affect the way you played out there?
Yeah, obviously, pretty disappointing to lose Yowie. But like I said, we've got a number of quality players who can step right up, and I guess that's what they did. So like I said, if one goes down, there's going to be another that just comes in and does the job. So it was a good response from the boys, and like I said, great to get the win.
No weak links in the soft stereo side.
No, I don't think so. No, as long as we do our job, we can do anything.
Reece Walsh, I mean, what can you say about him?
His actions do it all. He's a genuine freak, but you can tell how much he loves the game, and when he goes out there, he gives it everything, and that's why those special things come off. So it's pretty cool to play with him. Not against him for once, but he's a freak.
You said that you know that you've got another game in you, but you expected England to have another game and maybe even more one after a disappointing, obviously, result at home.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure they wanted to come out and put on a good performance for their country, and we did get the win today. But like you just said, they're going to have to step it up, and they're going to want to make sure, I guess, the Liverpool crowd next week. So I'm sure they'll get right behind them, and the boys will want to put on a good show for them. So. That's like us. We got to make sure we take that step up as well, and it's going to be a good contest.
How does the next week look for you? Do you know, are you travelling to Liverpool tomorrow? Are you staying around the area?
A couple more days here in London.
They don't go up for a few more days.
I'm not too sure. I'm the sheep, so I just go.
You just
have you got a Kangaroos bag now? You not got your Wallaby. Copped a fair bit of shit for that.
No, I've got my Kangaroos on as well. It's just the double, just to make sure people. No, I'm kidding.
I'll give it for the team song. Thanks,
cheers.
guys.
Thanks, mate.
Jeez, it sounded busy there, John. Sounded like you interviewed them at Waterloo Station.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a credit. I think the way the Aussie players are drilled in the NRL, and they know the role of the media, that they were very quick out, spoke well, and credit to the England players as well after what was a pretty dejected side. But Daryl Clark and Alex Walmsley fronted up, which is when you lose, not every player does that. So credit to them.
And I saw a few of the England guys doing selfies with fans as well, which was nice to see. So talking of English guys, you also interviewed Alex Walmsley and Daryl Clark.
Yeah,
so we'll play them now.
Pretty tough afternoon.
Yeah, real tough afternoon. Obviously, credit goes to Australia. They were clinical, took their chances, and were the winners. So, obviously we're really disappointed as a group. But it's a free test series, and we get an opportunity to bounce back next week.
You've played them before. Was it exactly what you expected from
the fast, the clinical. I think that was probably what it was. There's a clear difference between the opportunities they had. They iced, and we probably left a few points out there. But all credit goes to them. We're beat by the better team, and we've got to accept that and find some improvements for next week.
Did you think the scoreline accurately reflected the sort of the game as in the contest?
Scoreline's always a scoreline, and it was that score for a reason. So you've got to accept that's what it was. Whether it was a justify the performance, that's for other people to decide. But we are where we are.
How much work do you need to put in this week to get up to their levels for next week?
Well, a lot. There's no doubt in that. We've lost, by a fair few points. So we'll have an honest review and reflection of the game and the performance, and find some ways we can improve and hopefully find a way to close that margin.
What was the feeling at half time? Do you think you're still in the game, obviously, and still?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was finding the balance, and obviously there was a break at the start of the second half, and we was on the back foot off the back of that ever since. So that's what we'll look at. But again, it's a free test series. There's 2 more games, and there's 2 more opportunities to hopefully right some wrongs from today and try to get ourselves back into the series.
Alex, I know you're back at uni now studying. How have you found juggling your studies and being back in England camp?
Yeah,
because it's quite an intense course you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but that's on the back burner. So I'm very fortunate. I've got some lectures and lecturers and the cohort what are supportive of me being able to chase my international dream one more time. So I'll worry about that when the series is done.
Did you go back on the course thinking that you perhaps may have not featured in the England team?
It was always my intention to do the course. But at the end of the day, the international series always take precedent, and that's where we are. But I'm preparing for life after rugby. I'm coming towards the end of my career, so that's why I've started that. I want to make sure I start that will give me enough time while I'm playing to get that finished while I'm still playing. So, but again, that's on the back burner at the minute. We'll just I'll pick that up once it's season.
And you're getting married this year as well. You're ticking all the boxes in one go.
Yeah, we're just going to knock them all out at once. Yeah.
When are you getting married?
End of December. Right. So between Christmas and New Year. So that's something to look forward to. That exciting. Thankfully, Simone's taking the reins on that, and she's organising everything for that. And I'll just turn up and do the right thing.
Where are you going on honeymoon?
That's one thing we don't have to worry about is honeymoon. There'll be enough time.
Thank you, Alex. Cheers. What did you make of that?
Thought we started pretty well, but bombed 2-3 chances. End of sets weren't great. We kept drop the ball early on a few times. And you do it against a team like that, you're going to get punished, and I think that's what happened.
Do you think just Walsh made those few reads, like there's a few 50-50 moments that if they'd fallen?
Yeah, we spoke about big games like this, you're not going to get many opportunities, and when you do, you need to ice them, and we had 2 or 3 in that first 30 minutes, and unfortunately we didn't ice them. It came back to bite us. Obviously they was clinical, the chances they took them, and we didn't.
What was Wayne's message to the players after the game?
Just we need to be a lot better. I think we completed at 65% in the first half, and you do that against any team, you're going to struggle, but definitely against these men, they'll punish you, and that's what they did. We weren't clinical enough in that first half, dropped the ball too many times, didn't ice his chances, they did, and they punished us.
Does the light try and give you something to build on for next time?
It's better than getting nilled, I suppose, isn't it? But yeah, we finished all right, but I think you always find that in games like that when you're chasing. So we need to be up at 90-95% completion, icing us chances, and being really good to keep finishes. Opposite to what we did today. A bit to work on. Credit to them. They were really good. They were strong. They was clinical, and they punished us. So a lot of work to do.
Is it going to be tough to get your chins back up for next week? Obviously, ain't got long.
Oh look, it's going to hurt. But I think we're back in. We'll be in the morning, and then I think we're back in Monday. So we need to be tough on ourselves, and like I said, we need to be a lot better.
Have you seen signs that you can do that? You can turn it around.
Well, if you look at that first 30, we had 3 try scoring opportunities when it was 0-0. We iced a couple of them. Maybe it's a bit of a different game. Maybe they're a bit under more pressure, but like I said, we needed to be clinical. We weren't. They were. That's all she wrote.
I know you've seen them in the game situation. Is there things you think you've seen from yours? Is there areas you can maybe exploit going into Liverpool next week?
They was pretty good all over, to be honest, weren't they? But we showed we could break them, and we had the strike to score the tries. But like I said, we just weren't clinical enough. I think 50-50 reads from Walsh. There was 2 of them where he's 2-on-1, and he's come up with 2 special plays there, which saved 2 tries. And like I say, if it goes 12-0, maybe it's a different game. But like I say, they showed they could score points and they could go back to back pretty quickly. So credit to them. They were really good.
Can you use that hurt to turn it into motivation, and the fact there's 2 tests, it's not over till it's over?
It's 3 tests, isn't it? That's 1. We need to get it right next week, or obviously that's game over. But we're confident. We can be a lot better than that. There's 65% in the first half. If you look at the last 2 years, we've not tossed up stuff like that for a few years. So look, we can be better. I'm pretty sure they can be better. So you need a bit of luck in games like this as well, and you need to take your moments. And we didn't.
Good work, John. If you want to get hold of John, you can get that Johnny D. Davidson on X. You're a prolific Xer. Where else can they get you, Johnny? Can they get you in the eye again?
Yeah, I'm in the eye on Monday with a post-analysis piece, the eye paper. You can get that online as well as in newsagents and shops in the UK. And in League Express as well on Monday, and on Patreon at rugbyleaguehub.com long reads.
You can get me at rugbyleaguecoach.com.au, email me admin at rugbyleaguecoach.com.au, or at rugbyleaguecoach on socials. So, interesting what you say about the second half, John. England have a mental issue, okay? So, under Sean Wayne. First of all, being an Englishman who grew up playing in England and coaching in England, I do know that there is a mental block when it comes to playing Australia. We seem to see them as superhuman and whatnot, okay? And that existed 20 years ago, so I can only imagine it's got worse. Think back to the 2022 World Cup. England looked fantastic in the opening rounds, in the quarterfinal, and they played the same opposition that they opened the competition with in that World Cup, beat them by 60 in round one, and went well within their shells in the semi-final. And when the crunch situations came, they definitely fluffed their lines. That's all between the ears, John. Right? Now, you've already mentioned, haven't you, what happened after half-time? So, 8-0 down. Your words were something along the lines of the game was there. When you play rugby league against people that in your head have been built up for 20-odd years of your life, if not by yourself, by other people all around you, to sit in that changing room at half-time and actually think, take the time to think a little bit. Here you go. These players that we're playing against aren't subhuman or superhuman. They've got frailties, because if you look at the first half, England did so many things well. They made a few breaks. They just didn't finish them.
Yeah.
And something's gone on in that half-time break in between the ears of the England players, because they didn't show up for at least the next 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, did they?
No, they didn't. And I think the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet, which I'm sure you probably will mention or everyone notices, that the Australians were far from perfect. It wasn't a 10 out of 10 Australian performance. I think it was probably a 6 or a 7. They dropped a lot of ball. They were clunky. You know, we always expected them to not be at their best in this first game. A new spine, a lot of debutants, and Angus, Chrichton, and Cleary, and they all said, you know, they were disappointed with how they played in the first half. So the worry is, how are they going to go in the second and the third? Are they going to be even better? England had to, you know, I think the set completion was something like 60-65% in the first half for England. You know, they just fluffed their lines, and they seemed, I think Sean Wayne said, they seemed anxious, they seemed nervous, they were apprehensive. So the question has to be why, and what did they get wrong in the preparation? We can argue the selections were wrong. There's players there who should be that weren't picked. You know, there's always hypotheticals, isn't there? So-and-so didn't. But certain players who've been out of form all year or not in great form didn't perform in this big game.
Do you remember last week I also said that England have been more prolific on Instagram and whatnot? I actually think...
Well, that's not down to them, though. They're not...
I know, but it all adds to the picture, John. It all adds to the picture, because even the players who are playing, their families will be watching things. You hear things. Even if you're trying to switch off from the media, trying to switch off from social media, you'll hear things.
Yeah,
I do think England spoke a bit too much last week in the build-up.
Well, I'll give you an insight, Lee. So I got into London, but I was too late for the England captain's run at Wembley, but I went to the Australian one. That was the one that was hijacked, shall we say, by John Bon Jovi, purely by chance. He was doing a press conference. But the England one, apart from Sean Wayne, they didn't actually do a captain's run at Wembley, which was really weird. And his I think reasoning was they've all played at Wembley before. But that's simply not true because there's probably a third of them, like Herbie Farnworth, Dom Young, a couple of others who hadn't. So that seemed an odd decision. And I saw the Australian captains run, and they were relaxed. They were happy. You know what I mean? They just seemed like it was a walk in the park, and they certainly weren't overawed by the occasion the following day. And while the atmosphere, it wasn't a hostile atmosphere, it wasn't a intimidating atmosphere, but it was still 60,000 people, a record crowd. And England just didn't, I don't know, they just didn't seize their opportunity. And you'd have to think mentally why that was the case.
They were probably too busy in the hotel watching the YouTubes and Instagrams. So, and it all adds to the picture, John. You know, words like history, beckoning, and words to that effect, England's chance to make history. These words aren't being used about the Australian team and the Australian tour. It's a British thing, and it's contributing to the English outcome, just like it contributes to the English outcome in the Soccer World Cup and the Euros. And they talk about the press and whatnot. Well, we've created our own sort of ecosystem, subculture in and around this. In terms of captain's run and playing devil's advocate for Sean Wayne, I'm not a fan of training the day before a game, but I would have probably allowed the players to go to Wembley to just do some extras. So what I've done a lot in full-time environments that I've been in control of is front-ending my build-up so that the players had energy in their legs.
Yeah.
But also players by their very nature tend to be, they can't sit still. So I would have taken them to Wembley and allowed them to work on extras. I've done some high kicks to Dom Young and Tom Johnston, etc.
Very light, a light session. Yeah.
But player directed wouldn't need to be coach directed. All right, just let the players move around, familiarize themselves with the stadium. Even if you've played there, it probably hasn't been for 3 or 4 months at best, or 3 years at worst. Yeah. So I definitely think England have a mental issue.
And just on that, sorry, just to interrupt, Lee, but on that, and you talked about that before growing up. The thing with that mental issue is, though, when at least probably half of that team are either playing in the NRL or have played in the NRL, like George Williams, and quite a few of them have played in World Club Challenges and beaten Penrith, you'd like to think that it wouldn't be as much of a mental block. Obviously they grow up with looking at the NRL as the best competition, all that, but, they're still, the Australian players have still got 2 arms, 2 legs, and can be tackled.
Also, though, the when something is within your grasp, and I stand by everything I said that this England team can do a lot better against Australia. When Australia do have so many injuries and players who've decided to play for other nations, so they're not bringing the strongest 17 that qualify for Australia. That's a fact.
Yes,
I've called it third string. And that's probably a bit too excessive. But in some positions, we're actually on the 4th string and the 5th string, quite frankly.
And the centres, they're probably in the 7th or 8th string, yeah.
That's exactly. And therefore, when something's in your grasp, I might actually get this prize. That brings its own pressure too.
Yes.
And the English players have just really suffered from it. Now, again, it brings me back to my own time coaching. I remember being with the Great Britain students in 2003 when we played the Australian students at East Ground in Brisbane. And our pre-match build-up, and it was very player-led, you would think we were going into a war. That was how it felt. I remember the words used by the captain. At one point, he said the words guts and glory. This was 2003, mate. And after 20 minutes, we were something like 24-0 down and flat as pancakes, right?
Yeah.
So that's one extreme example. In Britain, most changing rooms in most games, from the community to the lower divisions in particular, tends to be, let's go out and bash the bastards, okay?
That's what happened on Saturday.
And I do think Sean Wayne is that kind of coach a little bit, okay?
He is, without a doubt.
Right. As soon as I arrived in Australia, even at the community levels, I saw players just so relaxed walking into changing rooms. Like, some of them were horizontal most of the time. It's a game of football. In England, we call it rugby, okay? Rugby gives an insinuation that you have to be big and strong and tougher than somebody else. In Australia, they call it football, which insinuates you have to pass the ball around someone, doesn't it? By its very nature, okay?
It does, yeah.
So I do think this is a real thing. And this is why I find the Ashes game so intriguing, because it's a real clash of styles. And I found myself so frustrated, John, and I'm going to do an analysis video this week, probably in the next 24 hours, where I'll go through the X's and O's and we'll talk about that and unpack that during this conversation. But the mistakes they are making, because I've coached in Australia for nearly 2 decades, I've got all this Australian stuff in my head. It just wouldn't happen in Australia. And I'm looking at it thinking, why are England doing this? And it's because the game isn't under the same scrutiny. It's not got the same amount of people talking about it off the field.
Exactly.
There's not as many coaches clamoring for positions. Sean Wayne, to be fair, absolutely fair to him, he won a few titles with Wigan. Most coaches who've coached at Wigan over the last couple of decades tend to win something. Okay,
it's a huge club, yeah.
Because he's one of the better ones in the sense that he won a few more, just like Matty Pete now. But even then, he probably really only had a coaching test in maybe 8-10 games a year. In other games, they could play at 70%, 80%, 90% and get over Castleford or Wakefield Trinity.
This is the problem with Super League and the intensity the players aren't subjected to. While in the NRL and with Origin, they are used to playing in those high-pressure, intense situations. So you revert back to type, don't you? You've got that muscle memory. You've got that experience. And the English players, the majority of them don't have that. And I think in these series, that is reflected. But just jumping back to what you were saying about, the motivation, the physicality, and I think it was John Wilkin on the BBC said this. He said, they got the emotion and the effort is right. And we talked about this, the grit. You're playing against the best players in the world. You need more than just emotion and effort to win. You know what I mean? And all the people would have listened to those interviews with Chrichton and Cleary. And Cleary had a massive, I think he got an elbow just under his nose and his eyes probably swollen up, something shocking today. But they said they were going to bash us, and they did that. But that's the thing. You can bash them for 20 minutes, but you still got to play footy. You've still got to have the speed, the athleticism, the skill, the execution. I mean, look at Reece Walsh. I tweeted this during the game. England does not produce players like Reece Walsh. Why is that the case, Lee? I mean, I'm sure you got a view, but the only players in Super League who are like Reece Walsh are Bevan French and Jai Field. And where are they from? New South Wales.
Those players will be playing soccer in England or
modelling
on Instagram.
I know, the thing is, Lee, I know that athlete argument, and there is some credence to it, but it's the way they play. It's that Benji Marshall. The Kiwis do it, Rangi Chase. It's that backyard footy.
Yeah, more touch style. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and there is not really a touch. Touch is run by Rugby Union in England. There's not that sort of free ability to play. Like, maybe there was in the past with your Scoeys and your Sean Edwardses and whoever, but they don't seem to produce those.
Well, even Scully and Andy Gregory couldn't pass one side of the body. Yeah. They had to turn the back and pass.
And I think the other issue is, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. So the team is always wrong after they lose. But Jake Connor is a player who can create something, and he wasn't even in the 24-man squad. So Gary Schofield said this, and he copped a lot of criticism before the game, saying they lacked creativity. They were going to lose, and he was right.
England lost 26-6, which statistically is one of the worst score lines in the last few decades on British soil too. So comparatively, in the opening fixture, okay, so normally Australia take a while to warm up. So obviously there's been four nations, tri-nations finals where Australia have battered England or Britain. Second test
New
where...
Zealand.
Right. So, but in the opener, when Australia tend to be rusty, the one comparison I can think of is the opening match of the World Cup, which I mentioned last week in the year 2000, which was 20 points to 2 or something along those lines. Yep. In other words, Australia scoring a few tries and England either not scoring or getting, in this case, a consolation at the end. So that jumps out like dogs' testicles to me. On Australia, I absolutely stand by this, and if we clip this up, I'm going to get abused. I'm still getting abused for some of the clips last week.
Well, you made some great points about the form of Nathan and Tino and.
Well,
Monster.
All right. Well, what did Nathan do in the game? So this is the best half apparently since Jesus was born.
Nathan had a good game.
If you listen to the Australian media, he had a steady game. He had a steady game and kicked really well. Munster, I didn't criticise Munster. I said he had a defensive issue. Tino did one big hit. Did he play for the rest of the game?
The thing we haven't mentioned either is they lost their captain and one of their spine players early on for a concussion, but they didn't seem to worry him at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
That's a
but
worry.
I stand by everything I said. This is not an overly good Australian side. I said the two centres were
defensive.
I don't need you jumping on the bandwagon, arsehole. Where did England make their breaks?
They made their breaks. Well,
edges or through the middle?
No, it was through the edges, yeah.
Right. What did I say about the two centres? I've said it for weeks, and I've been abused on Insta and played TikTok.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, we haven't mentioned. You said it, and I don't disagree with you. Although I think he has now gone to a different level. But Reece Walsh can be rocks or diamonds, and his last month, 6 weeks or whatever of footy has been fucking the most expensive diamonds you've ever seen. And on Saturday, he was electric. In defence, those two reads, I don't think I've ever seen a player, England should have had 2 tries there, but I don't think I've ever seen a player have a defensive read when you've got a 2-on-1 and manage to pick the pass or stop the play. But then when he was running with the ball, he had spiders on him. He made something like 236 metres.
I'm going to counter what you say about his defence. There's a pattern. And if England had done their homework properly, they would realise Reece Walsh always goes for the ball, or he goes in between the two runners. So again, it comes down to habits. I've coached in Australia for 2 decades. I would have done that homework.
Well, that's down to the coaching stuff, isn't it?
Right. Now, maybe the coaches did do the homework, but Jake Wardle forgot in that
role. Didn't. Yeah,
right?
That's possible.
Right, so again, playing devil's advocate because I'm not piling on Sean Wayne yet, and his coaching staff. But again, I go back to the point I said about the weak defenders. Where did England make the breaks on the edges? They need to play more football. You watch back that first half when they moved the ball, they caused Australia so many problems.
They did.
Okay, but there were far too many errors. There were poor passes. There were dropped balls. Wardle got slid into touch. His decision-making that we've just spoken about on Reece Walsh. Like I said, he always goes for the ball, if you know that. So if you're completely over that as a coaching staff, as a team, and you dummy and go and Reece Walsh gets you, you can go, okay, we misjudged that. If people start dummying and going on Reece Walsh and he manages to defend that, then we'll say he's a great defender of these things. In terms of Reece Walsh's form, I would say his form has been about 4 or 5 weeks, right? Form is temporary. And if England would have put him under pressure, if England would have kicked right, like I said, and asked him to return the ball that way and got under his ribs with a coordinated kick chase, done a few things. I think one of the English forwards actually kissed him a bit later on, literally kissed him in the ruck. And they had a bit of push and shove. It was 65, 70 minutes. The game was gone, right? They needed to do that in the first 5. Real pressure. That form would have been under some pressure. Form is temporary. And it only takes a couple of bad moments for it to not be form again. Or not form anymore. Do you remember Reece Walsh passing the ball into touch? It nearly landed with you in the press box. That was early in the game. If we'd have managed to get another error out of him of some kind, all of a sudden some nagging doubts would have come into his head. If that was an NRL game, he wouldn't have been allowed the same freedoms. England dropped balls, kicked poorly. Tom Johnston kicked, and it nearly ended up in the next suburb when he tried to kick the ball through after a break. If I was Sean Wayne this week, I would get the ball through the hands so much this week. Warm up with the ball, play small-sided games, just get balls. This is what Australians do all the time, right?
Yeah.
Just think about the ball. If they're going to beat Australia this week in the second test, they need to play football. Also, get players to do what they're good at. If I talk to you about Morgan Knowles, do you think his first instinct is to run over people and be aggressive, or to catch and pass a football? What's his first instinct?
Probably to run, but the good thing about Morgan Knowles is he can ball play. He can
not on Saturday's evidence. And
I've seen him play for a long time. He's very good, and you'll see him in the NRL next year at the Dolphins.
But Sean Wayne used him as an extension of the spine. It's like players like Jake Trbojevic and the like. Sometimes they pass too much, and you've got to do what the opposition don't want you to do. I always say, do you want Adrian Morley running at you, or would you rather him catch and pass the ball 30 metres? Right? So there's a bit of that too. So apparently he passed 16 times on his 25 touches of the ball, Morgan Knowles. So he's a passer. He might as well played with number 6 or 7 on his back. And it was laboured. Right? So all the halves kept going to the line with the ball and then to turn and pass. So the line shots, the passing movement, the lateral movement was slow. Because the rucks were slow, the Australian defence was in England's faces, and they wondered why they couldn't always get around them. These are basics, absolute basics of football.
I think the other thing, and the stereotype is, England, Great Britain, big forwards, tough, physical, whatever. You look at the meters, the run meters, and literally in every area, particularly the props, Australia made double the amount of meters. You look at the edge forwards, the lock, Australia made 100 more meters than their counterparts. And then you look at the back three and they made 230 more meters. I mean, that's just not good enough.
Jack Wellsby made 67 on 13 carries.
I think Jack Wellsby, he's won a lot in Super League and he is a very talented player, but he's had a long injury this year and he's had a very tough year at Sevens. He hasn't been in great form, but he had a very tough afternoon at Wembley. And I know in particular in Australia, because of that Chrichton try where he basically hung off him too late, he didn't know which decision to make, whether to wait for the pass or, try and attack Chrichton. But that was poor. And I think he was one of those players, and there's quite a few in that England team who've not played well enough this year, but because of the lack of depth or because of the confidence, the relationship between coach and player, they were there. And I don't think you can carry that many players who haven't played well all year into an Ashes series and expect them to fire.
Matthew Johns, did you hear what he said? He said an all-out assault on the middle of the field. He said Herbie to fullback, AJ into the side and finding a way. So I would have thought AJ could, in this instance, could be 14 and come on at lock maybe.
Yeah,
and he said he'd do a middle third assault.
another coach actually messaged me today and said Herbie at fullback, but I don't know, he's probably played there in his junior days, but he's not played there. No. I don't think he's ever played there in the NRL, has he? Like, I don't think that's, and I think he is a huge threat for England. But I think if you're going to bring Brimson and you bring him at fullback, and you start Jez Litton to bring a bit more pace, and speed. Because the other thing that was the big goal for me, I don't know your take, but was the speed and the athleticism. The Australians were just quicker in everything they did, and they looked more athletic. England looked big and slow and old.
Sometimes it can be the white shirt that does that too, believe it or not. It can just give that impression.
No, but they did have I did a quick check. They had 5 players over 30 and Australia had 3.
Also, scoreboard pressure and pressure of the game impacts you. So if mentally you've bigged it up in your head, you will move slower.
Yeah,
it's proven by, if you're negative, if you wake up in a bad mood tomorrow, which knowing you, John, that's 30 days out of 31 in the month, you move slower, don't you? If you're positive and you're happy, you bounce around. Well, so there's an impact there. In terms of Matthew John's analysis, and I'll go in middle assault, I'd actually do a mixture of what I've said. So I always say to my players, I say something a bit ruder than this, but you've got to keep your girlfriend happy, right? So if on every Friday you bring your girlfriend flowers and she has a big smile on her face and you have a great night, guess what you have to do every Friday? Right? This is the very PC version I'm doing right now. Okay? So if you're getting a result, you have to keep doing that until such a time as you don't get a result anymore and then convert to something else. Flowers on a Thursday and a Friday, for example. Okay? England had joy on the edges because Australia have got those 2 weak defensive centres. There's a difference between defending and tackling, which our social media trolls don't seem to understand. Tackling is the ability to tackle someone who either runs straight at you or steps a little bit. Defence is all the things that leads up to it, i.e. in a structure, moving laterally, whether you come up and in, up and out, keep your hips square, etc., etc. So I would play football, right? Just because you're playing football doesn't mean you don't have to complete. So, for example, if Tom Johnston took the tackle and played the ball quickly rather than kicking it into the in goal, we'd have had another tackle with Australia on the rack. And what you do when you've made a break, if you get tackled, is you pass the ball straight to the other side of the field. Because, like flies round shit, when there's a break, the defence rushes to the threat, which is the ball, so you pass away from it. It's simple stuff. So when that doesn't work anymore, because Australia have adapted, because in a game there's a yin and yang, if you keep going sideways, they'll adapt. Then you do what Matthew John said, an assault through the middle. These are basic things to me. Absolutely basic things. And to be fair to every journalist that criticised the selection of, or non-selection of Jake Connor, also praised the selection of Mikey Lewis. It also seemed to be that George Williams wanted to hold the ball too much and not give Mikey loads of room. I would give Mikey some early ball. The kick chase, right? So first of all, the kick and the kick chase. Instead of making Nawaqanitawase work or Reece Walsh work the ball out from his wrong side, they kicked all over the show. England kicked all up. What was their kicking plan? I can tell you what the Australian kicking plan was. How many times did Tom Johnston catch the ball and return it? It was obvious what they were doing. Yes. We did not know what England were doing with the kicks. Nawaqanitawase has grown up playing rugby union. In rugby union, you do not catch the ball and run it back 15 times in a game.
No, you kick it.
Right?
Kick it back.
You kick it, so you make him work. He and Josh Adokar return the ball poorly in those circumstances. I've analysed this game. I've watched it 3 times and I've cut it up. When England kicked to the right, like I said, to nullify Reece Walsh, the first few tackles of Australia were really slow. They actually killed their go forward. If England defend properly, and that's another issue I'll be unpacking soon, right? If they defend properly, they can suffocate them. These are basics. Absolute basics.
That's the worry, that how badly they got the basics wrong.
So I mentioned the defence, right? The massive, massive problem that England have. You notice their defence was compressed.
Yes.
Right. You notice Australia could easily get around them at times. Okay. It's easy just to go, that defence is too compressed, scrap it. But if you actually look at the tackling and you actually look at the peel off at the play the ball, sometimes England had 4 men in tackles. On, I think, 2 occasions, definitely one, they had 5 in. Okay?
Which is common in Super League.
You're only allowed 2 at marker. And people tend to have a fullback, so that's 10 in your defensive line, okay? England were committing men into the tackle. And then if you let's go with 3, okay? If there's 3 of us in the ruck, one of us has the ability to get back quickly, leaving the other 2 to kill the rest of the ruck and get to marker. It's called peel off in rugby league parlance. I'll be doing a video this week where I show you that the wrong man was going back all the time. Some players were coming in, 3rd man, doing next to nothing, and then taking the marker position and making the person who'd done all the work on the floor get back into the defensive line. Australia played the ball on several occasions when England had only 8 or 9 men in the defensive line, and it was compressed. So no wonder they bloody went around them.
Well, the BBC pointed it out in the post-game with, can't remember if it was the first or the second Chrichton try, but they obviously had Walmsley peeling off, who's 8'7" and 35 years old. And I can't remember, it was obviously a quick play of the ball. They targeted that he was in the line, and it was either Munster or Walsh. And then Chrichton running an inside line and basically barely got a hand on him. And it was just a very easy, very soft try. And those are the things that you mentioned, and they exploited them. The Kangaroos exploited them.
Absolute basics. Absolute basics. If you think about the way I've broken down the weaknesses in Australia, well, first of all, I was inclined to go towards their weaknesses, not their strengths, their weaknesses. And you have to play on players' weaknesses all the time. So let's talk about Reece Walsh again. He's in form, but if you expose his weaknesses 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the opening 20 minutes, guess what he's going to be thinking about? He's going to be thinking about his weaknesses, not his strengths. Okay? So going back to the defence as well, the compressed line. The way it was compressed too. So when you run a compressed defence that moves up and out, and I'm a big fan of this kind of defence, right? You have to make it get slightly thinner and spread out a little more as you retreat down the field. But it can still be up and out. England was staying too compressed, too deep in their own half, and with less people in the defensive line. Absolute bloody basics. And then on the edges, both sides, the defenders sometimes didn't know what each other were doing. It literally looked like they didn't know each other at times. England didn't get beaten physically. England did not get beaten physically at all. I would almost argue the forwards, it was parity, if not at worst.
It was parity. I thought the Australian forwards did really well, but I don't think physically England rarely gets beaten. But as you know, and you've just pointed out, it's at this level, it's not about physicality, isn't it? They're all tough. To play rugby league at the best level in the world, everyone's physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's not and physicality and passion and pride and grit are just prerequisites. You don't make it to that level without having those. But you need, and you've already articulated, you need a lot more to succeed and to win at that level than just physicality, toughness. You need some football intelligence. You need some smarts.
Right. That's right.
And England played dumb at times.
Next Saturday, so the second test, is absolutely huge for British Rugby League. It's huge for Northern Hemisphere Rugby League, and it's huge for International Rugby League because Super League has had a good year, I think, in terms of its metrics.
It has, the numbers. Yeah.
But people aren't stupid. If they get heavily beaten again this weekend, it will impact the Super League because people will think, oh, we want to watch a bit more of this NRL, or our players are second rate. I'll tell you why this isn't a pipe dream. In the early 1990s, English fans used to watch Serie A.
I know.
Because
was it ITV or was it Channel 4? I can't
Channel
remember.
4, I think, because a lot of the best players were there.
They were. Gaza.
And if you went to an English football game, you'd probably get your head kicked in because of the brutality in the grandstands. The image of the game was poor in England. It was glamorous in Italy. Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Well, it does. And the fact is today, and you would probably remember in the 80s or 90s, wasn't it? It was Winfield Cup VHSs, and they arrived a week later, and people got them from the shop. But now you've got every NRL game on your app, or you can get them on Sky, or you can watch all the highlights for free on X and the NRL.com. So I see this all the time. You go down to the Challenge Cup final, you see as many Broncos and South Sydney jerseys as you do Warrington and Wigan.
And in the 90s, it was Tina Turner over here in Australia. In England, it was some fat bloke singing From Ilkley Moor Bar Tat and stuff like that. So, I actually think it's a massive couple of weeks, definitely this week. So, I think if England get beat this weekend, but then win a dead rubber, I'm going to channel 1988 a little bit. Britain won a dead rubber then, and it influenced a load of positive change in England because it was the first victory over Australia for 10 years. So if England win a dead rubber, let's hope that something can be built on the back of that, okay? But I actually think for the international game, for the chance of us ever hosting an Ashes series in Australia, England need to come out and beat Australia this week. So I look at the rugby league world. I don't just look at England, okay?
100%. Yeah.
And views of the competition, views of the game of the Northern Hemisphere. Remember, in the last quarter of a century, we've had Wales drop from semi-finalists of World Cup twice to near easy beats. Scotland have dropped off massively. Ireland have dropped off the perch, having been in 2 quarterfinals, one of which I was involved with. France have obviously had their travails for the last half a century. And the USA is also in the Northern Hemisphere. They've gone from quarterfinals in 2013 to being non-qualified. Views of the Northern Hemisphere Rugby League are going to be really poor down south, where I live. Let's compare what we saw on Saturday with what we saw on Sunday with Tonga and Samoa going at it. Samoa playing like they did. If they played like that against England, what would the score be? I think they played better than Australia. And look at the event. And there was 20,000 less people. That's another thing I need to ask you about, John. What was the atmosphere like at Wembley? Because it came across as...
It wasn't the greatest atmosphere. It wasn't hostile. There was a bit of noise, but it wasn't probably what an English crowd is known for. I think part of the reason was there was a lot of Australians there. I saw a lot of Australian jerseys, and there's 100,000 Aussies who live in London, something around that number. And I'd say a good chunk of them were at that game. I do think the whole thing about atmosphere is a bit overblown in the UK, because at the end of the day, if you're an elite level player, whether the crowd's cheering you on or not, you perform, or you have to perform. But yeah, the atmosphere wasn't as feral as you would get at Leeds or Wigan or Hull and some of these places. But just jumping back a bit, what you were saying, Lee, the problem is, and you're right about the Super League metrics. Viewers are up, attendances are up. But beneath that, all the clubs are losing money. Salford are about to go bust in 3 days. Featherstone are close to going bust. Halifax are in huge debt. North Wales haven't been paying their players. The TV deal's halved, and next year they're going to bring in 2 more teams and increase the quota. So there's just more second-rate players from the Q Cup and New South Wales Cup from our teams. So Super League's going to have more mismatches. There's even going to be even more less intense games. And this impacts the national team. This is what people don't seem to understand. And it hurts the product that people watch, but it also hurts that top level, because unless you're playing against the best in intense games, you're not refined. You're not used to coming up against Cam Munster and Reece Walsh and Nathan Cleary.
Nearly 1 million people watched the game, didn't they?
I think it was something 800 or 900,000 on free to air. Yeah.
I'm sure it was 4 million, 3 million, 2 million in the 90s, by the way. I'm sure it was.
That's a very different thing, though, when you didn't have Sky, you didn't have 58 Freeview channels. Like broadcasting, TV broadcasting is very, very different, and audiences are a lot more fragmented. So you can look at that many different ways. But look, the stage was set. It was a beautiful day in London. It was warm. It was sunny. Prime time, 2:30 on the BBC, great time slot. Lots of national newspaper coverage on Friday.
What was pre-match like? Like the walkout? Did the team walk out together to Land of Hope and Glory like they have done for the last 100 years?
It wasn't. No, there was no hope and glory. There was Australia came out, and then England came out, and it was national anthems. But it was a great event. I know the Times had a pop at the crowd. But it was a record UK Ashes crowd.
Oh, it was a brilliant crowd. It's just that if you put 60,000 in a stadium that holds 90, it's going to look weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but how often does rugby league in the UK get 60,000 people in a stadium?
I think it's excellent. I think the RFL have done a great job.
Well, that's right. I said this to the director of marketing at the RFL in the Mix Zone yesterday, and they were criticised for when they picked the venues that they did, but it was a masterstroke because they obviously knew, we could be beaten in this first game and this could put a damp squib over the rest of the series. So they've already sold out Game 3 and Game 2. So, they're not losing money. And that in the past, International Rugby League hasn't been able to wash its face because it hasn't made money. So they've done very well on that. But you are right. I think the series, it needs a response from England. It needs a very good performance. And, I think even a credible performance yesterday, even a defeat, but a credible defeat would have done a lot. But it was just very one-sided in that second half and very deflating, I think, for a lot of people who were in the stands. Probably a lot of people watching. Well, I'm sure you were deflated and disappointed watching.
Just angry, and just some of the basic errors I saw.
But the thing is, Lee, like already during and after the game, there's been the spin about, England weren't that bad and blah, blah, blah. Like there's got to be a wake-up call, the way the sport's been run and why it's been run. And, that happened in the 70s and 80s. And then there was the golden era, wasn't it, of the 90s. And there needs to be change now. And whether that change is the NRL taking over and everything coming together, you can see the benefits. But I don't think that's unlikely to happen because the club owners in England, there's too much self-interest and there's too much sort of power that they wouldn't want to give up.
John, 2 men look through the same prison bars. One sees mud, the other sees stars. And the one who sees mud dwells on the result and whatnot and says it was so bad, etc. The one who sees stars says it wasn't all that bad. The actual truth is in between. England did so many things really well, which prove they can compete with Australia. Okay? So that was the problem, wasn't it, beforehand? That's why they picked Headingley for the third test, because we thought we were going to get beat 3-0, right? So guess what? England can compete with Australia. They've now got to compete with them for 80 minutes. It's not motivation they need to kill someone. They need concentration. That's what they need. They need concentration. You listen to Ellery Hanley and Mal Riley, people who've succeeded in Australia. they talk about the importance of concentration and intensity of action. Second in the silver medal in my post-Ashes literacy competition. So you got the gold. Another Australian, Paul Crawley of Fox Sports, wrote under a headline, "Pom's no longer a league superpower," said that what we saw first up in this 3-test Ashes series, I reckon the Poms would rank 5th in the world right now between the Kangaroos, Kiwis, Tongans and Samoans.
Well, the thing about that is, I mean, England beat Samoa and Tonga convincingly the last 2 years. They haven't played New Zealand, I think. Well, Great Britain played New Zealand in 2019 and lost, but they beat New Zealand in a series in 2018. So you can't actually say that with any credibility. But if you call them a superpower, well, they haven't won a World Cup since 1972, and they haven't held the Ashes since 1970. So I think the more to the point is Samoa have emerged, Tonga's emerged, New Zealand are a lot better than they were, PNG are getting better, but Australia are still at the very top. And obviously we're tailing this off one game and things could change, but even with all the factors that we've talked about injuries and player defections, Australia is still at the very elite. That's the reality. And I think for rugby league globally to grow and get bigger is we need a football and or rugby union equivalent where every time someone plays, you don't know what the result's going to be. You know, the Springboks can beat the All Blacks and the All Blacks can beat England and France can beat Australia and Scotland can beat the Springboks and Italy can beat, you know what I mean? That's what we need.
The reason Paul Crawley got silver was he also mentioned the refereeing. And he said, quote, "What a shame hometown whistleblower Liam Moore allowed England to get away with blatantly slowing down the ruck for the entire game. What Moore let go was fair dinkum embarrassing at times," close quotes. Now, I disagree with that because,
me too.
Because Kevy was well aware that the rucks were going to be slower.
Yes, they all knew.
So it's not Liam Moore's fault.
Well, they've got Willie Peters there feeding them information on all the England players and how the rucks are. They had a Super League referee, James Vella, who is an Australian but referees in Super League, in their training sessions during the week. They knew exactly what was going to happen. And the whole thing with Liam Moore, I had all these people, English fans, slating him off saying he was biased towards the Australians. I mean, the bloke's from Wigan. He can't win. I thought he actually did a reasonable job.
I do. He got two things wrong. It was a forward pass for the first try. I also think in the NRL, Mikey Lewis going down would have been given as an obstruction. And I think he genuinely got clipped. So, I mean, I don't know why we give all the Australians. I'd be going, no try, make it hard for them. If you were in France, the ref would have given 85 penalties against Australia. And also, Reece Walsh pulling Herbie Farnworth by the collar.
Yeah.
What I won't mention is Herbie was pulling his collar first and Reece Walsh retaliated.
Yeah, the thing is that piece has been written through Australian eyes, criticising the referee, and then he can't win. Referees can't win no matter what. The point is the referee didn't cost England the game, and he didn't help England lose by a lesser margin. I mean, it's just complete bollocks.
He said, "At least Grant Atkins will be in charge for the second test." Grant Atkins is here to save us, Johnny. God help the Poms then. I reckon the 20 points difference here is likely to at least double if the Kangaroos are allowed to play the style of footy they are accustomed to back home. I'd like to lead on this. I actually think England will benefit from a quicker ruck too. If I was Sean Wayne, I'd be ringing Kevy Walters, say, "Kevy, let's just have a football shootout this week. You're the favourites, and it'll probably suit you better. But I'm just going to play football. Let's just have a crack. Let's put a show on." Honestly, because I think some of these England players need to be unleashed rather than have a straitjacket on.
I think part of it is less of the Churchillian speeches and, Green Street hooligan and we're going to murder them, and actually just go out and play footy. Go up, as you said, relaxed, calm, confident,
Yeah.
Do your captains wrong. You know, if you need to get a psychologist in there and, Bradley Chud Stubbs, done. Whatever you need, but just, go out there and play foot. It is just a game of rugby, as you said. And I think the BBC panel, don't worry about history. Don't worry about pressure. And in a way, there isn't pressure on them because history shows that wins the Ashes, doesn't it? So, yeah, just go out and perform and play footy what you've done your whole lives.
Anyway, John, to wrap up, tell us about your weekend in London. Any stories for us?
Many stories. I did miss John Bon Jovi because I was
Did you see Charlie Chaplin?
I think he's been dead for a long time, Charlie Chaplin. So I didn't see. I did see Danny Wilder almost get mangled by the eagle that eats the pigeons or whatever around Wembley. That was funny.
Some people would have liked to have seen that.
Yes, I did run into Paul Seranen and the.
Did he tackle you when you ran into him? Did he?
No, he was chatting to Willie Peters, and I know Willie, so I said hello, and then it was one of those, weird moments because I grew up watching Ciro play. I think he was a legend. He's still a big man now, but I just introduced myself because I was just like a bit starstruck. But no, I mean, it was. I think there was a lot of events in London. London Broncos had a launch on Thursday. Both the teams are at Downing Street. They're at Australia House. It was quite enough. You saw it on TV, Lee, but it was a shot at the game where you had Adam Hills, who's Australian comedian who's got a primetime Friday night English chat show. You had Pat Cash, Australian women, and you had Darren Lockyer sitting together. It was a pretty good.
Was Jermaine Greer there? Clive James. I
think Clive James is dead, but Jermaine's still going. I didn't see her there, but look, no, it was a good. I think it was a good weekend for the sport. Not a great weekend for England, but look, the series. There's 2 games to go. Let's hope for a better.
Did Paul Seranen still have some of Barry McDermott's elbow impaled in his cheekbone?
Now.
We need to bash him.
Don't start on Baz. I love Baz.
Baz is my mate.
Yeah.
Baz is my mate.
He'll be sending me DMs again. Let's be nice to Barry.
Ciro, no, he's my mate. Ciro shouldn't have ran into his elbow. Yeah, we'll do another pod later in the week, mate?
We will. There'll be a few. Well, it'll be interesting. I don't know about your take, but whether they change the fullback, whether they change the halvesing, and whether they bring some younger, more athletic forwards in. And with Australia, who plays 13? Is it going to be Ruben? Well, Carrigan, I suppose, is probably the obvious one to move, or do they put in someone like a Cotter? Or we shall see.
I would go AJ fullback. I don't think we need 2 hookers. I think Jez Liston can play the whole game. He's not fantastic defensively, but I would get those around him to protect him. And I still have belief in Jack Wellesby. I think he's a proud person and he'll take what's happened this week to heart. So yeah, that might free up a bench spot for Jack Wellesby and give him a bit of an open mind as to what he's going into and where he plays positionally.
I can see Colin Watkins coming in, maybe an Oledsky, maybe a Morgan Smithies.
Yeah, I don't think the Alex Walmsley's carries were good, but it's the other side of the ball that's an issue. Yeah. So Oledsky might need to come in. In terms of Australia, lock. They've got a few back rowers on the trip, haven't they? So that might be quite an easy fix, really. I think England have got to hope that Australia are a bit arrogant and happy that they've won. To be fair to Sean Wayne, I loved what he said after the game. He was talking about focusing on the win next week. He didn't seem to dwell based on the comments I've seen. So this is why he appeals to players. I read what he said and I thought, geez, yeah, good on you. I want to play next week now. But we can say things. It's about what players truly believe and it's about the subconscious moments.
The thing is that view or that perception of the Australian players being arrogant, they're anything but.
I know.
Speaking of Nathan Cleary, Chrichton, They're just so professional.
That's it. They're just so professional, so relaxed.
Yeah.
But
I asked Angus Crichton about the pressure for playing the Kangaroos because everyone expects you to win, and then if you lose, it's like an outrage. So you can't win either ways. But he just said, no, we love it. And, they just seem very relaxed. And, yeah.
What I was saying is you just need to hope that in their subconscious they just think, oh, this is easy. Look how easy it was last week. And, yeah. So.
I think they just hold themselves to such high standards as well. And that is the worry that they will be a gear or two better in Liverpool than they were in.
We need to get some scousers in Liverpool to.
James Graham said that
do some things.
Fireworks. The fireworks.
Maybe take them out on the lash. Fireworks. It's all fair in love and war. So fire alarms at the hotel.
That's what James Graham is going to organise, I think. So
all good. All right, Johnny. I'll see you later in the week, eh?
Thanks, Lee.